Oh, thank you. It's hard to know sometimes whether art and poetry can actually change the world by changing our culture. But when I experience Alixa and Naima, who together form Climbing PoeTree, I remember that it's not only possible, but it's likely essential. Those of you who were here yesterday or who have been here during the last few years may have had the pleasure of experiencing them in short performances, but their performances are only the most visible tip of the mushroom fruit, of the expansive branching mycelium of the profound and dimensional work that they do. Alixa, wait till you hear. Alixa Garcia and Naima Penniman, as Climbing PoeTree, are a spoken word duo and award-winning multimedia theater artists and committed organizers and educators. We feel they are among the most powerful, engaged, social and environmental activist, artist, poets of this time. They elevate awareness and engagement through their intense open-heartedness, piercing intelligence, inspired writing, musical skill, and a luminous presence to deliver some of the most radically awakening and uplifting, socially conscious, contemporary artistic performances anywhere. It's surprising that they aren't yet more globally famous, but that may be because they have so much unshakable integrity that they insist on maintaining complete control over their artistic productions and their appearances. They are true independents in every exalted sense of that term. Women who would much rather perform in a prison or a school or a disaster zone than on a reality TV show. Here are just a few of their achievements. They have independently self-organized 30 national and international tours from South Africa to Cuba, the UK to Mexico, and throughout the US, including 11,000 miles touring on a bus with an all-woman crew that was converted to run on recycled vegetable oil. Yeah, right? They have performed at such diverse venues as the Brooklyn Academy of Music, the UN, Harvard, and for countless community-based organizations, and at the notorious Rikers Island prison. They have appeared with Alice Walker, Danny Glover, Cornel West, Alicia Keys, Naomi Klein, Michelle Alexander, and Angela Davis, just to name a few. They are bold, cross-cultural experimenters who have engaged in what they call international, bilingual, pansexual, polyracial, multimedia, cross-genre, intergalactic collaborations. They've also interviewed undocumented and first-generation LGBTQ people to turn their stories into handcrafted artwork. They have developed, check this out, an arts-based curriculum to inspire the next generation of social change agents with 68 lesson plans, a course being piloted in several high schools and universities in 5 states. Do you think these women sleep? Not much. They have organized solidarity work in Haiti, bringing together artists, farmers, and traditional healers to collaborate with a rural community to plant trees and share skills. And let us remember the people in Haiti really need us now. I could go on, as I am truly in love with and awed by Alixa and Naima. They weave the social nourishment of poetry, laced with the lightning fires of justice and the oxygen of the sacred with the sweet waters of love to create an irresistible alchemical elixir. We are deeply, deeply honored to close the 2016 Bioneers Conference with some of the greatest poets of our generations, and certainly the ones with the most passion, the most systemic weaving, and the biggest hearts. Please join me in welcoming Climbing PoeTree.
I woke up this morning and my soul crawled up my skin and whispered in my ear, the revolution starts within, but without justice. In this world, my poetry seems paper thin. Because somewhere in the world, a girl is counting stars and grains of rice and praying hard to save her life. And pain and strife are the only cards she had to play with. And somewhere in Haiti, a mother's counting her dead children. And somewhere in New England, another's counting multi-millions. And somewhere in Chicago, a broken soul grows old in prison. And somewhere in Colombia, the land's too poisonous to live in, and people live there. And somewhere in the world, landmines and pipelines, crack pipes and high-rises circumvent the land like lines designing palms of hands, printing futures we will never understand until our ancestors become our children. Because somewhere in the world, a newborn is taking her first breath in. Somewhere, someone is caressing the face of their first love, and someone is dancing despite the hunger. And sometimes I dream in colors our eyes haven't even learned to see yet. Because we have seen firsthand the power of art to communicate these realities, these devastating realities, while simultaneously making us more courageous in the face of the environmental and social catastrophes we have inherited. Because now, more than ever, we need new vision to be able to picture something different than what we've seen before. A radical imagination that can shift human culture towards peace, ecological sanity, generosity, and open-heartedness among the world's people.
Because we see the intersections between environmental injustice, state violence, and displacement as a triangulation of oppression. Y'all get that? State violence, displacement, and environmental injustice is a triangulation of oppression. That's the pillars, man. The continuation of colonization turned into a globalized capitalism that puts people and land after profit.
Because creativity is the antidote to destruction. It's the opposite of the violence that divides us. And it's a force that builds empathy across difference and awakens us to new ways of participating in the creation of the world.
We have dedicated our lives to using art, translating our lived experiences and deep research around the most pressing issues of our time, using spoken word, story, hip-hop, multimedia theater, participatory art, and performance ritual to expose injustice and make a better future not only irresistible, not only visible, but here, now, for us, now.
We are part of a lineage of cultural workers, a long line that spans time and space, and we want to pay homage to the cultural shifters who have come before us. Those include the Black art movement poets like Amiri Baraka and my own godmother, Mae Jackson, who rallied a movement behind the courage of their truth, and innovators nowadays who reclaim the remnants of this throwaway society to fashion protest art.
Graffiti writers who use the walls of Quito, Ecuador as the front pages of newspapers with headlines that mainstream would never dare to print. And South Africans who sang coded songs throughout Soweto, informing people of where the resistance stood.
'Cause I grew tired of pretending freedom was around the corner when I never gave her my address or invited her over, only longed for her company without dismantling my borders. When Alixa and I met 14 years ago now, I was part of a grassroots effort to dismantle the mandatory and minimum drug sentencing laws in New York that were responsible for the mushrooming prison population in our state and across this nation. And I was also working with women who were incarcerated on nonviolent drug offenses and using poetry as a tool for expression and for healing.
At the same time, I was in Colombia, my home country, and working with farmers and documenting the human rights and environmental abuses being put on and implemented through Plan Colombia. Under the guise of the war on drugs, the US sprayed large tracts of land with glyphosate, an extremely toxic defoliant used to destroy the coca. And in its wake, Plan Colombia left people generationally sick, as in children after children sick, destroyed the agricultural lands, and poisoned the water supplies.
We saw the piercing realities of the situation and an unshakable urgency to do something about it. The tool we had in our pockets was poetry. How could we use our voices to tell these stories that went missing and mangled in mainstream media and rally support from communities across the nation to change the story? So in the first year of our friendship, 22 years old, we created our first collaboration, a multimedia poetic production that challenged the war on drugs through personal stories. We left our jobs, left our home, packed all that we had in the back of Alixa's car, and set out on a 6-month journey across the nation that would teach us that when you say yes to your passion and to your conviction and move from your heart's longing, the whole universe conspires to support you.
It's true that art can cross race, class, gender, geographical lines. It gets diverse people into a room together asking the hard questions.
We learned that creativity can indeed activate people to mobilize for meaningful change.
We learned how vast and connected our web of relationships are.
How much we depend on and can harm and can also support one another.
And that magic is real, y'all. It's just real.
We learned that magic is real. Whoever told you you can't fly was afraid of heights. You'd reach if you tried. You better free your mind before they illegalize thoughts. There's a war going on. The first casualty was truth, and it's inside you. The universe is counting on our belief that faith is more powerful than fear.
And in that shifting moment, we'll all remember why we're here. So we want to share a little bit about why we're here today at Bioneers, and we want to highlight 3 projects today. We have a lot. We have many brewing simultaneously, but we decided to share 3 with you.
And the first is called Stitched, which is a massive, ever-growing, multicolored tapestry that's made up of over 6,000 handwritten stories from people across the country and the world. And we started collecting these stories 10 years ago, really with the conviction that movement building is the work of storytelling, declaring our truths and bearing witness to each other. And over the years, we've continued to display this tapestry at our shows, do workshops around the power of storytelling as it grows and multiplies. At this point, it's hung in classrooms and public parks. It's been in the Lower Ninth Ward in New Orleans. It's hung off bridges. It's been on Greenpeace ships. It's been in reservations and prisons and in old-growth forests. And the magic of Stitched really comes from the collective wisdom and the collaborative power of our communities. What happens when we tell our own stories and we reclaim the power to write our futures? And when we recognize ourselves in each other and begin to dispel the myths that keep us divided.
So I want to share with you one time. We were tasked with a 3-day workshop at a correctional institution for young folks, and we were asked to work with all the young women in the facility. We said yes immediately, and we were like, yo, can we bring Stitched inside? And they said yes, and we were like, oh, shoot, okay, here we go. This is good. So on the first day, we walked through these white walls and white floors and white ceilings and fluorescent white light that flooded everything and voided anything. You couldn't attach yourself to nothing. You know, we entered into our little room and immediately started hanging the colorful tapestries, trying to cover up all that white, trying to round off the corners, trying to soften the blow of that place. And as we hung it, guards walked by, peering in through the little window. They all looked, disgruntled, like there must be some law against color or something. I worried that someone might inform the higher-ups, that this tapestry was reverberating with the energy from hundreds of people that we had managed to smuggle into this detention facility. But soon enough, the young women walked in, and they were hard, y'all. Their shoulders were hard. Faces were hard. But there was a curiosity in their eyes. We could see it when they walked into all that color, And that's all we really needed. That's all art ever needs. It's just a glimmer of curiosity. And so we gave the women an opportunity to read Stitched. And as they found common ground with people's deepest, darkest secrets and highest, brightest dreams, the room began to buzz with all this energy. And we did this exercise where we blindfold our participants and we take them on this sensory journey. And it's a sensory journey of sound and touch and smell to evoke memory and then to also awaken imagination. And as we moved through the exercise, we saw that one of the young women started to cry. Her blindfold was soaked. And my first instinct was like, we got to stop this exercise. We got to take care of her. And then I stopped myself and I was like, how often does she have a private moment within herself to cry for herself? In a safe container that we've collectively created for one another in that room, which we'd successfully done by that point, right? And so at the end of it, we asked the young women, how was that experience for y'all? And this woman that had been crying, this young woman raised her hand, and through tears she said, I have never felt so free in my entire life. It broke me, completely broke me. I couldn't believe, here she was, the oldest amongst all the folks there, all the young women, had been in there the longest. On the back of her shirt, it said, property of the state of Ohio. And despite the legacy that tried to break her, that tried to break her community, that tried to break the generations before her, here she was in the midst of her own captivity saying, I have never felt so free. And it wasn't Naima and it wasn't me. It was this art. It was the color. It was the softening of this place we had collectively created. It was the stories written by strangers in another place, in another time, that penetrated through these walls that have been built to keep us divided. It was the art that allowed light to pierce through the thick barricade of a detention center in Ohio and reach the heart of this young woman. This is a testament to the power of stories, to how they reconnect us to our humanity and to one another.
Because they who build concrete against the corners of our hearts need to feel our resistance. Like a million tender blades of grass cracking sidewalks apart, reminding your runaway child there is no place that love cannot find you. There is no place that love cannot find you. And so everywhere we went, love continued to find us. And everywhere we went, so did destruction, so did disaster. And I remember in the aftermath of Hurricane Katrina, we were so struck and outraged with the stories of our friends, collective members, and family members coming out of New Orleans that let us know that there was nothing natural about that disaster. And we ended up creating a whole multimedia production that examined who is bearing the brunt of this planetary catastrophe that we're living in, and the intersections of state violence and displacement with environmental injustice, and most importantly, looking to these communities who are on the front lines for the solutions that would help compel us to transform these realities. And so we created a performance ritual and traveled over 50 cities across the nation with an all-woman crew and a bus we converted to run off recycled vegetable oil to be able to
11,000 miles, son, on Greece.
To be able to really create sanctuaries, to have the courage to look into the eye of the storm, and to be talking about the solutions. We would feature amazing grassroots organizers who were doing work on a local level to have a platform to talk about how the audiences could get engaged right where we were and being part of the solution.
And everywhere we went after the shows, people were like, man, I feel like I just took a college course, or I just read a volume. And it got us thinking, we have all this research, we have all this art, we have all this poetry. Let's make a curriculum for high school and college age students, which is where we've always, put our work and life into. And created over 68 lesson plans. We have an online portal. It completely is written for the learner. We've been piloting it at 2 universities, 3 high schools, 5 different states, which Nina mentioned earlier. And it's powerful, right, to have a collection of these stories, not only of oppression, but also of resistance in the hands of our young people, and have them get inspired because we're using hip hop and we're using breakdancers and poppin' lockers to embody the work. So a lot of the media that you saw in the beginning of our presentation is all from the curriculum, every last one of it. Also, the third prong part of this continuation of hurricane season is the solution spotlight, which mirrors the solution ciphers Naima mentioned earlier on. And we've been, for the last 2 years, working with our dear friend Kimba to create an online web portal where you can come and just be inspired. Just be like, damn, this is happening here, and this is happening there, and it's happening around gender, and it's happening around indigenous rights, and it's happening around water, it's happening around mass incarceration, so that we can stay inspired and engaged.
So I have about 3 minutes to tell you all a big story. The next chapter of community-driven response to unnatural disaster really struck close to home for me when, in 2010, a massive earthquake tore through my ancestral homeland, my grandfather's homeland of Haiti. And in the time that ensued over the last 7 years, I wish I could tell you about this powerful collaboration that has involved immense reforestation projects of over 10,000 trees planted, free wellness clinics, and using art and music for therapy, doing peer-to-peer counseling to address the trauma of having lost 300,000 people in a nation within a day, paying homage to the ancestors born of that earthquake through ritual, and creating out of rubble, literally, a monument to honor those who passed in that village that we've been working in. And, amazing collaborations between Black healers from the States and from the Caribbean and from the larger diaspora, working with healers from this village to really help to bring up the collective resilience of this community. And I want to end by sharing a story of how these worlds align in a mysterious and unexpected way. So, as I had mentioned, on hurricane season tour, we traveled with an all-woman crew. And we were really determined to create this female-powered brigade to really prove to ourselves and one another that we could do anything and perform all the roles traditionally assigned by men. So our sound technician, our videographer, our set builders, our master of ceremonies, solution cipher facilitators, bus drivers, and us as performers were all women. But now it was finding the grease mechanic that was the hardest of all. We searched and searched, and it seemed that this already small subculture was the specialty of none other than white men. And we thought we were going to have to give up our lofty expectations as we approached the tour launch. We couldn't find anybody. And then we ended up in a small town in Washington State doing a community workshop. And at the end of the dialogue, somebody had raised their hand, and we didn't get to them and moved on. And I remember thinking, I really want to know what she had to say. And towards the end, before the workshop closed, I called on her. I said, what was it that you were going to say before? And she said, oh, it's not relevant anymore. And I insisted, and she said, well, I was going to share a story about how I was part of this radical circus tour, and we were traveling the nation on a grease bus when Hurricane Katrina hit, and I was like, what? A grease bus? So, of course, Alixa and I run up to her after and start talking to her. Is there any chance you know how to? And it turns out she was fascinated with the world of diesel conversion. She spent all that tour up under the bus trying to learn from the guy who was doing all the work on the engine and all that, and she really wanted to learn. And we were about to proposition this stranger we had never met before to go on tour with us for 8 months, and we did. Long story short, we get her an apprenticeship, fly her out east to learn with Patrick, who we thought we would take, and she converts this old retired school bus we got for $500 from Florida, and that's what we set off on the road. Her name is Alana. And so, this is when the story gets crazy. So all of us know each other real good except for Alana. She's new to the crew, but we all are building strong bonds along the journey. And it's through a long stretch between tour stops traversing the Rocky Mountains that we realized Salome, our Brooklyn homegirl, who we'd been knowing for 12 years doing moon circles together, that her and Alana grew up in a small town in California not far from one another. Turns out that Alana's dad was Salome's dentist growing up. They couldn't believe it. Like, what? How? We are more connected than we realize. All right, fast forward, 2013, I'm preparing for the third delegation to Haiti. It's the third anniversary of the earthquake, and we're building our team of artists and healers and farmers to come and continue our collaboration with this village. Back in Flatbush, where I'm doing the organizing work in my home of Brooklyn, I'm part of this composting community venture that we had just started, and through that, I meet Kiki. Now, Kiki is this amazing guy who lives on my block, who's really into worm composting and permaculture and urban spaces, and I find out he's from Haiti. So, of course, I'm telling him all about the work we're doing. Maybe he wants to get involved. Y'all, guess what? Turns out Kiki, who lives on my block, is from the very same village that you have to cross in a four-wheel drive or a motorcycle on a river to get to this village of 3,000 people. This is where his family is from. His uncle is one of our partners, and his house is across the street from the community center that we've been working in. We are more connected than we realize. Then, I'm rushing through this story, y'all, but then I find out Kiki is a dentist. Now, the reason this is important is because we always take directives from the community in Haiti that we work inside of. What is it that we can do to best be in solidarity with y'all right now? And they said, we need dental care. None of us have ever seen a dentist in our life. If somebody gets a cavity or a toothache, we pull it. We need some dental care. So I said, Kiki, by chance, would you be interested in providing some dental care in Commiers? Of course, I would be thrilled. What an honor would it be for me to take this back to where my people are from? If only I could get some materials, some supplies. Do I know any dentists? Is there somebody that might solve this problem? Alana's dad is a dentist. Alana's dad's a dentist. Maybe. I hit up Alana. Is there any chance your dad? Turns out Alana's dad had just retired from dentistry, but he had a hookup with the biggest dental supply corporation in the United States and immediately sent $1,500 worth of dental supplies to Kiki, we'll go to the next slide, to be doing dental care and providing oral cleaning and surgery for people who were receiving that the first time in their lives in the place where he was from. It meant so much to him. It meant so much to Kiki to do that work, and it meant so much to the people to receive that care from somebody that looked like them, that could relate, and it meant so much to Daniel, Alana's dad, to be able to be part of this mission together. We are more connected than we realized. And here is a photo of people crocheting while waiting in line to be seen by Kiki. My own mother, brought yarn and crochet needles, and her and Eloise, an elder from Commiers, the village we work in, who loves to crochet, they taught folks this meditative skill to pass the time and relieve anxiety while they were waiting to be seen. Children and adults, men and women alike, learn how to loop and wrap these threads into an intricate weave, and it reminds me of the moral of these stories. We are more connected than we realize. A perpetual spiraling chain entwined from a single string that meets up in unexpected places. When we pay attention to the design, our interconnectedness reveals the interdependence between each other and traces us to opportunities to help one another in truly meaningful ways and mutual ways, allowing ourselves to fulfill in our intrinsic purpose. We were born
right now for a reason.
We can be whatever. We give ourselves the power to be.
And right now,
we need dream weavers, bridge builders, truth sayers, light bearers, food growers, wound healers, trailblazers,
life lovers, peace makers.
Give what you most deeply desire to give. Every moment you are choosing to live
or you are waiting.
Why would a flower hesitate to open? Now is the only moment. Raindrop, let go. Become the ocean. Possibility is as wide as the space we create to hold it. So don't be scared of the spark in the spell of great darkness,
or afraid
of the light in the moment of dawning, or the heights you will reach when you rise to your calling
and release
all your rain,
call it flying
or falling. Let go of your wanting and give in to your longing to live free of possessions and full of belonging to the intricate infinites. We're all a part of the web that you wove in a dream you'd forgotten was the Creator awakening into our conscience, condensation of vapor into a droplet of water.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much, Joe. Thank you.